Welcome to Promo Insiders, the ASI media podcast that covers the topics that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm CJ Mitica, and today we're discussing the technology that's poised to change the world, AI. I'm joined by Isar Meitis, CEO of Multiplai, and John Young, ASI's Director of Software Engineering, to find out how you can use AI right now and what the future might hold. Well, thank you both for being here today. AI is a huge topic and one that everybody is thinking about. Esar just spoke at our Power Summit, our ASI Power Summit, a couple weeks ago, gave a really well-reviewed, highly intriguing talk that really opened my eyes to a lot of different thoughts and possibilities. And we really appreciate that you were there, Esar. Can you just start, Esar, by telling us a little bit about your background with technology and then your company, Multiplai, how you're working with AI currently to help other businesses?
Yeah, thank you first of all for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I learned a lot about your industry at the ASI Power Summit, and I found a lot of amazing people, and a lot of people are curious about AI and how it applies to their business and how it applies to the industry and so on. So I'm really glad to be here and be able to share. My background, I spent most of my career running tech startups. So I've been a CEO of several different companies. I founded two of them. I had two exits. And so my largest company was a travel wholesale company that my team and I grew to $100 million in sales. The company got sold to a private equity company. So I my background is running tech startups. So I've been in tech all of my life. And about in October of 2022, I sold my half of my previous business to my business partner, thinking what I want to do next when I grow up. And then a month later, ChatGPT came out. And being a geek and a technology kind of guy, I started playing with it. And then people started reaching out to me and say, hey, you have time and you know this thing. Can you come and help us? And that started the ball rolling in April of 2023 after helping several different businesses, kind of like most of it pro bono, a little bit from some pay, but nothing organized. I I'm an investor in several different businesses. One of them is a training platform, like a cohort-based online training platform. So early in 2023, I came to the CEO, which I've been mentoring for the last 5 years since I invested in them. And we decided we need an AI course because it's going to be the next big thing. So I started teaching AI courses to business leaders in April of 2023. And I've been teaching at least one course a month since. So many months, it's been two different courses. And the company really focuses on two main things and then one smaller thing. So the two main things is AI training and education. So I do these through these courses that I either teach to organizations like ASI or to specific companies. So either more like consortia of multiple companies that put together these courses for everybody, or to specific companies that invite me. And every now and then when I have time, which ends up being about once a quarter, I open a public course, then anybody can join the courses. So that's one aspect. The other aspect within education is I do a lot of company specific workshops. And these can be anything from 2 hours online to 2.5 days face to face, kind of like more a condensed accelerator, which usually includes training and a mini hackathon with the people from the company, with the different departments. It's always very helpful and creates a lot of education and excitement and momentum within organizations. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is I do consulting. So I come into businesses and actually help them evaluate where they are, what tools they might need, what processes are required, how they can potentially change business strategy in order to make the best out of what AI is going to offer them, how to try to avoid the risks that it's going to offer either them as a company or their industry, and so on. And the last component, which is the smallest component, but I'm personally very passionate about it because of my background, is a lot of companies are looking to develop AI solutions. And so many of these companies have no clue on how to develop software because they've never done this in their lives. But they're saying, okay, if we develop this piece of software, we can spin our business, grow our business, add to our business, whatever the case may be. And I help them define the actual requirements because, again, that's my background running software companies. So how do you write requirements for that? And now I have a Rolodex of like 6 or 7 different companies that's what they do. They are shops that develop AI solutions for other businesses. And I try to pick the 3 that are the most relevant to that particular use case. We write an RFP, we send it to them, we get it back, we evaluate them, and I help them then run the project. And so these are the 3 main things. Education is probably the biggest one, consulting is the second, and then the third is software development.
All right, fantastic. And as far as you, John, I know you've joined ASI last year. I'm sure some of our readers and viewers have seen you at our ASI shows where you've presented or spoken. What's your technology background? How does your role at ASI intersect with AI?
I am a developer, and I have been a developer and a middle manager since the 90s. I come from an agency background with a detour through magazine publishing. The through line is getting companies where different departments need to talk to each other. Developers need to talk to the designers and vice versa. Both of those people need to talk to the product people, and all of those need to talk to the stakeholders because, like, hey, we built it on time. That's great, but what if we built the wrong thing? So getting a development-focused, holistic idea of what we need to build is the thing that makes me really excited. Middle management, it's sexy. So the goal is to write down what we want to do in a way that everyone says, oh, yeah, we understand what we're trying to do, to define it in a way that people says, oh, I understand exactly what we're going to do, and then build it in a way that says, oh, great, I thought that I was going to get it on Thursday, and here it is Thursday, and I've gotten it. So many of those things are that sort of like description of the work to be done is exactly where generative AI shines. Because developers for so many years have been used to both working with business analysts or assuming the role of business analysts, where you're describing what you want to do, you're describing what success looks like, and then you're putting on a different hat and going and making the stuff. And AI can play both of those roles. And so as we work with everyone in the company to A, describe what we want to happen, and then B, actually make it happen. Not just developers, not just designers, not just product people, but also the stakeholders and especially the customer support representatives who want to describe what they're trying to do. Generative AI has been a tremendous time saver, not for people to do something completely different than what they have been doing, but rather to recognize, wow, I could do that in 2 minutes instead of 30 minutes, or here's something I can do so that I don't spend a week dreading that boring chore I was going to do. That's where we're implementing it here at ASI.
Yeah, and that's a great segue, John, to I think my first question about AI. It's such a hot topic right now. I read something every day about AI. It seems like, and there's so much speculation about where it's going, how it's going to change our world, what revolutionary impact it's going to have. And my question, Isar, I'll start with you. My question is, right now, specifically for business owners and people who work in the promotional products industry, what can AI do for them right now?
Wow. We have 4 or 5 hours. How much time do we have? No, you know what? I'll start actually with piggybacking on what John just said, right? So John mentioned software development, and I know a lot of your audience doesn't develop software, but I think it will give an idea just in this little world that he mentioned. And it's the concept of communication between different departments, right? That's what John was talking about. So how do you define requirements? And it doesn't matter what those requirements are, but I worked in many software companies. Some of my clients right now are software companies. One of the things we're doing is we're simplifying and yet significantly improving user stories. So those of you who don't know what user stories are, that's how software is written. So you define a feature. What's a feature? Okay, what does it need to do? There's a user story. What does the user know? What does he needs to do? How does the user interface needs to look like? Basically describing what the product will do. And then, so think about it as a very detailed project definition thing. The problem is, vast majority of people don't have a freaking clue how to write a proper user story. So they write a partial user story, and then the developer gets it like, oh, that's what I need to develop, making a lot of assumptions where it may or may not be true. Today, AI can know what are best practices of writing user stories. Or if you want to translate it to anything else in your business, what's the right procedure to do this thing? How do you put in an order into the order system? How do you send up a confirmation email to the client? How do you collect the information from the client so you can put the order into the ordering? Like all these things are procedures that most companies don't have. They have it in people's heads. Like Gina and Joyce knows how to do this thing, and John and Adam knows how to do the other thing. But there is no exact process on how to do this, but there should be. So AI can monitor what people are doing as they're doing it, learn the process, develop a detailed process, and then fix everybody else's process. So if I go back to a user story, if you wrote a lousy user story, said, okay, you're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, and by the way, I want you to write more description on this specific segment. So it won't write it for you, or it will ask you, okay, you know what? Explain to me in my own words, literally speak, click on a microphone button and speak what this thing needs to do. And it will write a detailed, structured summary, work order, whatever the case may be, in the right format, in the right structure. We'll show it to you, ask you if you have anything to add. And if not, now you have something that is very, very structured. So this is more on processes within a business where most businesses are not getting it right. The other benefit, by the way, of having this is the fact that now when you bring in new employees, you don't have to spend 3 weeks training them. There's a very clear process that they can do. But let's broaden this for a minute. The literally every aspect of the business, from data analysis, finance, legal, HR, marketing, sales, customer service, customer success, data entry, each and every one of these things, AI can do very, very well. Why? Several different things. AI is really good, better than any human on the planet for a very long time now, in unstructured data analysis, right? It understands words. This means emails. This means customer support tickets. This means customer reviews. This means anything that is just open free text that if humans had to do, you need an army of people, usually in a place that it's cheaper labor. So, India that speaks English, and yet it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, or the Philippines. And then you're going to run these 10,000 rows of data into people who were supposed to categorize them the same way to analyze them. It was not possible unless you were McKinsey or, PwC or one of those companies before. Now we all can do this. It's magic. And that applies to almost every aspect in our business because we all have data, some of it structured, some of it unstructured, that we can analyze. It is very, very good at coming up with ideas. It's an amazing ideation tool. Who needs ideation? Everyone, right? Managers to define strategy for their department, and they want to fine tune it, or they want to think about new things that are happening in their world, in their universe. Salespeople, how do I sell better? Marketing people, how do we come up with new ideas for a new marketing calendar and everything that we're going to talk about that is aligned with our exact client persona, with their needs, and with the current time of year and trends that are currently happening? It's a lot of stuff that is very hard for a human to put together, and AI does it very, very well. So literally every aspect, I said HR, and I again, we can do this for very, very long, but just as ideas for people. If you're in HR, I'm like, okay, what can HR do with this? Well, first of all, it can help you write the right questions for peer reviews that will figure out stuff that you're trying to figure out. It can help you write job descriptions for people you want to hire that will be better job descriptions that you can write on your own. It can help you write questions to job interviews that will take into account the position of the person, the resume that they've sent in, if they took any personality test, and most importantly, your company's culture. All of that, write questions that will figure out if this is a person that will be a good fit to the company culture and to the role that you're trying to do based on the information you know about them. Literally anything you can think of, this thing can do very, very well and save hours of work, usually tedious work that nobody wants to do. Nobody enjoys writing user stories. I don't know, nobody. Some people like writing user stories or job descriptions, but most people don't. It's just a necessity of something that we have to do. And this can take that away or minimize that, allowing us to do more meaningful work and invest more time in things we actually enjoy doing.
So that's great. And to be clear, AI has been around longer than the past couple of years, but what we're really talking about right now is generative AI that deals in large language models. Most people know ChatGPT, developed by OpenAI. That's I think the most prominent one. When that first became mainstream popular in 2022 and 2023, it seemed to me that the general feeling was, Wow, this is very powerful, something really novel, but also kind of unwieldy and not sure how it's going to impact our business. Since then, Isar, and right now, has the conversation changed, whether because of advances in the technology or a difference in how people and businesses realize that they can use this technology?
A great question. The answer is both. I think the technology came a very long way in a very short amount of time. And the next wave is already very obvious. So people see where this is going. I mean, none of the big labs that are developing this are hiding what they're doing, right? The fact that
Mhm.
they're developing agents, the fact that they're developing thinking platforms, the fact that they can now run our computers. Anthropic just released a model that allows you to run on your computer, taking control of your machine. Google already announced that their next release. We know OpenAI has been working on this for a while. So we it's not just that the present is obvious, and even by the way, even if we stop now and we didn't do any more development, this is changing everything we know, but we already know what's coming in the next 6 to 12 months. And so the combination of maturing technology that in the end was cool, and now it's, oh my God, this can do all these things actually pretty well. And yes, it still has limitation. It still has stuff you need to be aware of. It still hallucinates. It still sometimes would wander off and do something unexpected. So it's not a 1 and 0 game like we're used to from computer. You flip the switch, the lights turns on. It's not the way it works. Uh, but it's getting closer and closer to that, specifically if you well define the use case, right? So for specific use cases, you can build a solution that will be 95% perfect. And the companies are understanding the impact that's going to have on global economy, on their industry, on their niche, on their specific productivity. And so, from an investment perspective, from a training perspective, from a planning perspective, from a budgeting perspective, everybody's going all in on AI. And I see this. My smallest client is about 20 people, and they're making about $5 million a year. My largest client has 45,000 employees, and they're making about $3.5 billion a year. And so I have companies across the entire spectrum of businesses, and they're all in the same situation. And like, holy crap, we got to figure this out. We got to put the right people, the right training, the right investment, the right tools, the right processes in place. And yet, most businesses are still struggling with what that means. And so everybody wants to run fast and start using this and figure it out, but most people are still trying to figure out how to do that.
So let's talk about a couple more specifics about how businesses can use it. John, I'll ask you your thoughts. Isar mentioned it could impact companies in a myriad of different ways. What ways have you seen, John, that businesses can be using AI right now to either improve efficiency, to save time, to make a difference?
I'll give you two examples. I think, you know what, and I'll just tell you what they are. So the first is any customer service representative who needs to write emails for a living, um, you know, immediately help me write a cold contact email for a company that, and the tone I want is, and please feel free to mention these things. Poof, now you've got an email. It's a rough draft. You zhuzh it up a little bit, off you go. It is not earth shattering. For someone that's already been doing this for a couple of years, it doesn't even save that much time. They will find it nice to sort of like get some of the think work out of the way. It's right after lunch. You're feeling a little bit sleepy. You don't have to sort of like, okay, get into the, you can have something that's pretty good already. Get a 3-star email with no effort, take it up to 5 stars using your experience. Now, for someone that has just started in this role, it is much harder to get a 3-star email right away. And you can get from 0 to 3 stars instantaneously. And that's the article that Isar had posted from MIT talking about that. Is that some of the biggest boosts are people who are new to a task that AI helps them the most. So for like starting right away, generative AI for writing emails, for customer contact, for you're feeling a little bit cranky and you're saying, help me say this, except nice instead of rude. It's a tremendous time saver. There is one way, in fact, when we were using it here at ASI, that someone said, wait a minute, I've got an Excel file with 250 dates in it, and I need to figure out how many of them fall on holidays. That's a 90-minute task, at least. You got to go look up the holidays. And it occurred to her, hang on, hey ChatGPT, how many holidays are up? It's Mother's Day and Independence Day. And you're like, oh right, Independence Day she would have caught, Mother's Day she didn't. Saved her 90 minutes instantaneously. Then the second order, the follow-on from that is, wait a minute, what about holidays celebrated in Poland? Oh, Constitution Day. Oh, what about holidays celebrated in Pakistan? Well, watch out because you don't know when this holiday is going to be until it's announced 2 days, 2 weeks ahead of time. And it's a tremendous time saver, not only for the work of going and looking up all those things against a list of holidays that you could, each of them is easy to Wikipedia, but this turned a 90-minute task into a 45-second task. And what's more, she was able to do it right away instead of sort of dreading this clerical task for a week. It's not a terrible task, but it's not the kind of thing that you're like, oh boy, I'm going to get right on it. Whereas with generative AI, you make it its problem, it gets back into 30 seconds, poof, that's a tricky task off your plate. So the answer to the questions, what can you start doing right away, are the bread and butter of talking to a large language model, giving it structured data, asking questions. Oh, now that I think about that, copying those things into email, setting them off on their way. This isn't stuff that anyone thinks of as like earth-shattering advances in technology. It's just earth-shattering cleanliness of your inbox using AI.
I would like to piggyback on this. I love,
Yeah.
I love what you said. I just want to generalize the first thing that you talked about, which is writing an email. One of the biggest problems we have as people in general is staring at a blank sheet of paper, right? And that could be writing that email, but this could be writing a proposal. This could be creating a presentation. This could be writing a report. This could be stuff that we do all the time. And it's very hard starting with nothing. You want to start with, that's why you have templates, right? What is a template? It takes you a few steps ahead in starting with nothing. You have something. But now these templates can be smart. They can be based on the actual information that you're trying to connect together. They could be based on reports information, customer service information, the previous email, the previous 20 emails you got from this specific client, the data you received from product that you need to do, the data you received from inventory that you need to, like, all these things that exist. And so instead of starting, the next thing that you need to do, whether it's writing an email, whether it's creating a presentation, whether it's writing your report, all these things that you proposals, instead of starting from nothing, give it the data that you have, the data you were about to use, give it more data that you weren't even thinking because it would have taken you too much time, but it will consume it in the same amount of time. Like if you give it 20 documents or 3, it will take it the same amount of time to consume it. And so you can then start with an amazing draft. And yes, it's not going to be perfect, but it's a good draft of your next proposal. Sometimes it will be 90% there. That's 90% saved time compared to writing the proposal yourself, which would have taken you an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how complex the proposal is. And so that concept of never start with a blank sheet of paper ever again on anything you're trying to do, take it to marketing, graphic design, same kind of stuff, right? Start with ideation with these tools and then let them do the first draft and then finesse it with your words and get a better draft and then go and do the rest yourself.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful to say like, hey, like where am I weak in or where am I struggling with? And AI gives you that head start. And you both have made the case very nicely about why businesses and people should be using AI right now. And if they're not, they should start. But there's been this explosion of options available in terms of programs and which AI should people be using. I think everybody's by now, I would think, is familiar with ChatGPT. But now all these other heavy hitters are releasing their own version. Google has Gemini, Microsoft has Copilot, Apple is pushing Apple Intelligence, and there's all these programs that are integrating AI into their own functionality. So Isar, like if you want people to start with AI, where should they start with it? How do they choose between all these programs that are now popping up?
It's a great question. I always go, first of all, to two very different extremes. And I really think that to be successful with AI, you need a top-down and a bottom-up approach working at the same time. The top-down is more the strategic side, right? As a company, first of all, where do we see the future of our business? How will this impact our clients' needs? Will the people that we're selling to right now in 2 years will be willing to pay? Yes or no? And if they will be willing to pay, will they be willing to pay the same thing they're willing to pay right now for the products or services we're giving them? The answer from many, many industries is no. And so, okay, how does that impact our future business? The flip side is how, as a company, we can figure out system tools, processes that will allow us to provide new services, different products that will allow us to sell more stuff to either the same people or other people that we couldn't sell to so far because we didn't have access to AI. So that's more the top down approach. And that also requires strategic investments and infrastructure and longer term thinking and stuff like that. Over there, it's more of a big project, right? That needs analysis and strategic thinking, and usually somebody from the outside to help you through that process. But then you have the bottom up approach. The bottom up approach is, how do I solve the day to day stuff that John and I talked about? How can I write a faster proposal? How do I draft an email? And for these things, most of the tools today, like the tools that you mentioned, whether it's Anthropic, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and now there's all these agent platforms that are coming up, and all the tools that we use today, like your CRM, your ERP, all these tools will start having your design tools, all these will start having AI built into them. So there's going to be AI in everything. And so the question is, which one do you use? And my answer is very, very simple. First of all, use the stuff you have. If you're using Microsoft and you have Copilot in Microsoft, start using it every single day. Find out what it can do for you in Excel, what it can do for you in Word, what it can do with you in OneDrive. Like what can it do? And it can do a lot of stuff. So start with the stuff that you have. You have Salesforce. Salesforce is coming up with amazing AI tools. You're using Adobe. Adobe is coming up with amazing AI tools. So regardless of what you're using today, there's going to be an AI layer on top of that. If you're enthusiastic about it, ask your leadership saying, I want a license. I want to test this out. I know this could be helpful. Look for specific use cases. So don't say, oh, now I have it. Look for specific use cases. What is the exact thing that I'm doing today that is, and I tell people, both the top down and the bottom up, look at it from three different perspectives. Perspective number one is what can generate more revenue to the company, right? If I do this thing faster, better, cheaper, will it make more money for the company? Question number two is, can I save money for the company, right? So can I save money to the bottom line? What John said before, I can now do in 45 seconds what it would taking me 90 minutes. I just save the company 90 minutes out of my paycheck. And then the third thing is, what do I hate doing? Like, what is the tedious thing that you just don't like to do? And find a way to make AI do it for you. So that's on the tools that you're going to have either way. Yes, it's adding an additional layer to the license, but you can get it within the universe you already live in. The second thing is that I tell people, most of these tools, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, all have free versions. Some of them, they're not as good as the paid versions, but even the paid versions are usually $20 a month. Some are 10, some are 15, but this is the ballpark. Ask your manager to use this thing, build a use case like a business person. Say, I want to use it to test these three things. I'm not going to use company data. I'm not going to share with it any classified information. I'm only going to try 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to test it out. Can I get this license? The answer is most likely going to be yes, if you made your case properly. And then test all of them. I literally use a tool that's called ChatHub. ChatHub allows me to see up to 6 different large language models on the same screen, and I can chat with all of them at the same time. And I use it, and it's a Chrome extension that costs whatever, almost nothing. And I use it for two main things. One is every time I have a new use case, I run it there. And then I can see which one of the tools actually does a better job. Is it Claude? Is it Gemini? Is it Llama? Is it another open source model? They have access to dozens. And so I pick the big players and then one or two that I know less, and then I try it out. And sometimes like, oh my God, for this particular use case, Gemini works amazing. For this particular use case, Llama is fantastic. The other thing that I use it for is brainstorming. Sometimes you just want to run ideas. I want to run a new marketing campaign to this kind of audience. And I'm looking for innovative ideas on how to deliver the message. Now I have a consulting committee of 6 different AIs. And by the way, I never use 6. It's too much. I use 4. but I use 4 of them, and I get 4 things that some of it is part of, like, okay, all 4 of them say this thing. It's probably important. But then this idea I really like, and then it allows me to mix and match those ideas together. And so start with the tools you already have access to. Start with the free tools or the most available tools because they're generalized. You can do anything you want with them, and test very specific use cases.
Great advice. Sorry, John. So ASI is using AI and integrating with products that we're already offering. We're also using it internally. So what can you share about how ASI is using AI currently?
Well, I want to say after listening to your response, Isar, I just want to fold my arms and go, yeah, because I think that's like exactly right. I think that, no matter who's listening to this, you already know who the innovators in your organization are. Maybe it's you, maybe it's that one dev, maybe it's that person in marketing. Like, you know who the innovators are, and what you want to do is get these tools into their hands so that you can find out what they do with it and say, oh yes, that thing. And that's the bottom up that you were talking about, and of course at the top down. That's what we're trying to do here at ASI. We have a committee, an AI and automation committee, because so for us, AI is a part of our overall sort of like automation process. Some of our things of automation are AI assisted. Some are just, good ideas for making repetitive processes faster. And because of the stakeholder buy-in, and because our executives are involved in that, they were able to provide a space in which every ASI employee has an approved way to explore and use ASI that they know that some stern person is not going to land on them next Thursday and say, "What have you been doing? You've uploaded Excel, cut it out." Um, we've carefully explained to everyone in the organization, hey, we happen to be a Microsoft organization, so hey, here's how you can use Copilot in a way that we are in the Microsoft walled garden. So here's the kinds of information you can and that you shouldn't upload. Once we've communicated that to everyone, which is very easy, and given them the thing they want, which is a sandbox to play in, we are now getting reports from all over the organization, like the one I mentioned about, like, hey, you got 250 dates and you want to know which ones should avoid holidays. That was great. That's something that came in yesterday. And so that also enables us to take those ideas and apply them to our software products. And just like you were saying, what makes money for the people we serve, we have been building AI into the products for our promo industry distributors. Hey, I'd like to write a description of this page of data. Hey, I'd like to write a description of this new website that I'm trying to make in 30 minutes because I'm trying to get out in front of the hot new product that I just heard about. Quick, make a description of copy for it. Click one button, poof, 3 paragraphs of copy, make it 2 paragraphs, tighten this word up, and click send. And supporting our users to do that and building that into our products is exactly what we're trying to do. I'll talk about one more thing. That is that involves kind of a new interaction model. Here's where I'll get a little nerdy. We've heard about human-computer interface, where people are designing a way for humans to talk to computers. And developers are already really familiar with computer-computer interfaces, APIs. Getting AI involved is sort of a middle way where we're teaching computers to interact with other computers in ways in which they're almost human. And typically, this is where we're introducing like a chat bot, or we are writing copy to go into a software product. And for us here at ASI, that's where we're really getting into the nerdy part of building software products that at the end of the day allow distributors to click one button, get the thing they want, and get on with their day. Instead of spending 4 hours to do something, spend 30 seconds to do something. And great, and go off and do what they're great at, which is building relationships with other humans and selling products.
So it's unanimous. We all agree AI is amazing. So Isar, does that mean that we can just kick up our feet, hand over the whole business to AI and let it do all the work?
I will answer not yet. So here's the thing, right? There are more and more things that AI does better. It still does very few things perfect. And so even as a safety mechanism, you need people in the loop to just verify that the AI is actually writing the right email, and that it's drafting the right proposal, and that it's creating the right art, and that the guy in the art that's holding the mug doesn't have 3 hands and 7 fingers in each one. And yeah, and so it's stuff like that. Like, you still need people, first of all, to monitor this thing because it's not completely knowing what it's doing. The second thing is you still need humans to come up with ideas. Now, can you use it for ideation? Yes, absolutely. Can you use it to help you clarify, finesse, sharpen points that you want to deliver? Yes, for sure. but the idea still needs to be yours. Again, at least for now. So that's the second aspect. The third aspect is there are things that it still doesn't do, right? At all, none whatsoever. And so it's these kind of things that still require us to be in the loop. I think what's going to happen as agents roll out within the next 12 months is we're going to see more and more and more tasks that the AI can do pretty consistently. And then businesses will have to figure out how to best deploy the human intellect, the human knowledge, the human experience. And as I mentioned in my presentation at the ASI Power Summit, the human relationships that they have in order to make the business run better, while more and more AI tools and agents are running day-to-day tasks, which could be anything that we talked about before, about from data entry, customer service, initial design, draft proposals, loading data to whatever place you need to load the data to, creating images, like something. I'll share something exciting that happened to me because of after the conference and speaking to a lot of people since the conference. Like one of the things you really need is the ability to create images of the products in different scenarios as a marketing thing. So I was obsessed with this in the past 2 weeks, and I literally developed a tool that now takes 4 or 5 different other tools in the background and connects them together, where you can say in regular words, what do you want this product to be? So I have this mug with me, right? It's actually something you guys gave me. So it's
That's right.
the ASI big gigantic water thing. I can train a model on this. And then within an easy to use user interface that nobody has to know what's actually happening in the background, say, I want to show the ASI Power Summit water mug in the hands of a person sitting at the beach. I want it showing at a countertop at a fancy hotel. I want to show it on somebody's bedstand in a 5-star hotel, and so on and so forth. And it will do it. And I think the cool thing here, going back to what is AI and what is humans, the humans would still have to come up with what do you think the image that's going to sell, or understanding your client, what kind of image your client wants so they can sell it, right? But you can now generate any image of any product in any scenario, in any lighting, in any kind of people, without having to create a photo shoot and spend $25,000 with actors and products and lighting and so on the fly with a user interface that, yes, in the background runs AI, but people will forget that very, very quickly. They're like, oh, I need this image, and the image will show up about 30 seconds later. And so I think if you broaden that concept, think about all the tedious stuff we do versus the real thing that runs our business, understanding our clients, understanding relationships, building relationships, understanding needs and pain points, understanding trends, all that stuff that AI doesn't do well yet. That's where the key is going to be. And the people are going to understand how to get that balance faster will gain huge market share over their competitors who won't, just because your price point will be very different. If you can do in an hour what you used to do or the rest of the industry does in 10 hours, you can sell things at a 30% discount and still make more money than anybody else. And so that's the direction that it's going, right? It's understanding what you can hand off safely to AI, what you still need to retain, and then look for more and more things that we as humans can do better than AI and focus your human resources on that.
So the blanket fear with AI is that it's going to replace the humans and take our jobs. But you're saying, at least right now, that's not the case.
I'm saying it's a very difficult question. Because again, if I take what I just said, let's use that last sentence. If I can save 30% of my cost, right? Or time, forget about cost. I can save 30% of my time because AI can do all these tasks. As a business owner, forget about the people in the business. As a business owner, I have two options, right? Option number one is, can I grow the business 40%, right? Can I grow the business faster than the savings? The reality is, in the short term, is yes. Because if you figure this out faster than other people, you can sell stuff at 20% cheaper, making more money than everybody else, and basically getting market share out of anybody else in your industry. But that will play itself out to the point where, okay, now everybody's doing it. We balanced, the playing field is now leveled. And then the question becomes, how much elasticity is there in the market? Who's doing it better? But at that point, you cannot grow 40% because you saved 30%. So now the only thing you can do is either keep the people and make less money and be less profitable and be less competitive, or let some of the people go. How much is some of the people? I don't know. I think nobody knows. If you're asking me what keeps me up at night, having three kids, one of them going to college right now, is that, right? It's as a society, as a global workforce, as stuff like that. Where are we going? Like, what's going to happen once this thing knows not to do 20% of what we do? What happens when he knows how to do 60% of what we do? And yes, there's still going to be room for 40%, but what are we going to do with the other 60% of the people? Um, and how the economy is going to work when you have high levels of unemployment. So there has to be some kind of a new social mechanism that will develop, just like it happened every other revolution in the past, right? Most of the people were agricultures. They were running in the fields, manually planting crops, because otherwise they had nothing to eat. And then they invented the tractor. And then people said, oh my God, like everybody's going to be unemployed. How are we going to feed people? Like, yes, we figured it out. And we're going to figure this one out as well. But what I'm saying, this is going to happen a lot faster than other stuff. So there's going to be bigger bumps on the road than there were, I think, personal opinion, than there were in previous revolutions. But I have no doubt that they will figure it out because we have no other choice.
Since we're dealing in speculation and looking to the future, I want to ask one more question about that. In your talk, Isar, you brought up the idea of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and the idea being that AI is at one level now, but it's going to make this leap and it's going to match or surpass human cognitive abilities. And you brought that up in the perspective, in the lens of creating marketing campaigns and dealing with the creative, the ideation, the realm that's the human arena right now. But what happens when the AI is able to do those things as good, if not better? It's really eye-opening for me to think about that. It's so hard to talk in absolutes, but just your thoughts, these are like, when the AI does take over that ideation, that creative, like, where does it leave the humans? Where does it leave marketing companies, businesses in the promo industry? Like, where does that leave them?
So I'll go back to what I said before. I think as a society, we have to figure this out, right? This is not a business question. This is a global, social, economical, psychological question. Like, even let's assume we figure out, and I'm now talking about stuff that is way beyond my pay grade, right?
Sure.
But let's assume we figure out the financial side of it. A lot of people are working on, universal basic income or stuff like that. So we're going to take all the money that AI is going to make, and we're going to divide it somehow to everyone, and there's going to be a world of abundance. And by the way, those of you who want to kind of hear the bright future of this, go and read the latest blog post from Anthropic's CEO, Dario Amodei. He wrote this really amazing manifesto of, if we get everything right, which I think is very unlikely, but if we get everything right, here is the bright future that we're walking into. By the way, his timelines are insanely scary. Like, he's talking about potentially having, he doesn't like to use the word AGI. He likes to use very powerful AI. So he doesn't have to define what AGI is. But he's saying he thinks we're going to have very powerful AI, which in his mind, by the way, it's smarter than the smartest scientists in the world, right? And that it can run millions of instances of itself that can either run individually or collaborate between them. And it can basically do any cognitive task that we can do way better than us. And he thinks that's going to happen within the next 2 to 3 years. Okay, now he is running one of the most advanced labs that are developing these things. He's seeing right now in his lab things that we will see a year and a half from now, that he's in initial stages of testing. So when he's saying 2 years out, he's not making general guesses. By the way, on the flip side of that, you have people like Denis Hassabis, who is the guy who runs the lab for DeepMind in Google, who's saying it's going to take 10 years. So they don't even agree. And these are two of the smartest people on the planet when it comes to what it's going to do. But what he's saying is that we have a world abundance where everything we need will be cheap and available to everyone. including healthcare, including fighting global warming, including not having any terminal illnesses and disease anymore, including solving the energy in the planet. Like literally anything you can imagine is going to get solved because AI will be way smarter than us, faster than us with their. But then you still have the question like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Like from a self-fulfillment perspective, we were trained through millennia to fulfill ourselves through work. Like I said, whether it's planting seeds and then harvesting the crops, or through creating software, or through speaking on stages, or taking care of babies, whatever the thing that you're doing is what fulfills you as a person. And yes, hobbies and so on. What's going to be the meaning, right? If this does everything, like what if everything I do, something else can do better than me? Now, I still think, again, as humans, we will find ways to express ourselves and to do stuff and so on. And maybe it's going to be awesome. Maybe anybody who wants to play golf every day will just play golf every day. People want to paint will paint. People want to swim will swim. And people who want to do arts and crafts will do arts and crafts. Maybe. I don't think anybody knows where this is going. But like I mentioned, this is coming and it's coming fast. And we will figure it out. And there's going to be bumps on the road, but we will figure it out.
Yeah, these are weighty questions. It's clear that this technology is arguably the most transformative development since the internet, and it's going to change our lives in ways we can't even fathom. And it's so hard to wrap our head around that. And it's going to be weird because I'm going to segue to like the here and now again. And we are a business podcast, and I want to leave at least our listeners, our viewers, with something actionable in terms of what they can do. So I'll ask this question, and John, I'll start with you. Just right now, what are your suggestions in terms of some best practices that our members and companies in the promo industry can do right now to adopt AI?
And I think I'll repeat what Isar, you have already said. Start simple, start easy, start free. 15 minutes from now, you can have kicked the tires on one of the large language models, had a conversation. You can go in whatever it is you do, say, hey, I'm trying to accomplish this. And you'll get something back that will most likely make you go, oh, I get it. Well, in that case, how could I? And you're off to the races. So there are platforms out there that you can kick the tires on, that you can try. There are ones that you can encourage your people in your organization to do. And for just a little bit more effort, you can figure out what are the conditions where they can start asking contextually relevant questions about your business. What would need to be true for people to update, not secret, but internal Excel files and start asking questions about those? There's answers to the questions that your in-house counsel can answer. You're like, yeah, what needs to be true? That's a little bit of business work. And I think those are two great steps for anyone who's listening to this can immediately take so that you can start getting there's like, okay, this is, holy cow, look at that. And then there you go. That's where you can invest your harder work. Isar, I'd love to hear how you're going to answer this question.
Yeah, great answer, by the way. I'll say, I'll make it a bullet point thing. The first and most important, training. People don't know how to use this. Even the people who kind of dabble with it don't know how to use it. Get proper training. It could be in-house. It could be hiring somebody like me. It could be taking courses online. It could be whatever you want. You have to train the people, and you have to everybody. And when I say everybody, is all the way up to the people on the board, because they will need to support the bigger initiative that you will want to do. And so they need to understand where this is going, why you're doing what you're doing. So board, leadership, middle management, people in the trenches, everybody needs proper AI training. The second thing is guardrails. It's something that John mentioned earlier. Like, you got to tell people what not to do, because this can come and bite you in the ass. I hope I can say that on your podcast.
Of course you can.
Before you understand what's happening. And so putting the right guardrails in place, and like John said, telling people you can play around within this sandbox. You can play around within this fence. Don't go outside the fence because bad things will happen. But within there, do whatever you want. And so that's the second thing, is guardrails. The third thing that also John mentioned is a committee. Put a committee together from different people in your different departments in your company, and the top geeks in your company. John mentioned that as well. Like, if you get geeks in the committee, they're like me. They're going to spend, I sat until 2 a.m. yesterday playing with a new way to train models to build products that can create images, blah, 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 because I find it cool. Get those people on board. You'll get much better stuff faster. And then the last thing is use cases. Define use cases. Don't start with the technology. Don't come and say, okay, everybody has access to Copilot, go do something. Most people are like, okay, but what's something? find through committee, through people who follow blogs and podcasts and so on, find use cases that are relevant to your company and start with those. Then it's very focused. It's within the guardrails. It's within the technology that you have access to right now, and start implementing. I'll use John's example. 15 minutes from now, you can start implementing. So find the use cases that are quick and go after them, and then build up from there.
Oh, fantastic answers from both of you. What's clear, and I hope our listeners and viewers take this away. The time is now to jump in. Like, set your skepticism aside. You know, you can't wait any longer. You need to be involved with AI. Isar, if people want to either connect with you or read more of your work or learn more about you, where can they go?
So the two easiest places are LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn every single day. I have I'm 51. In the last 51 years, I had to spell my name and pronounce my name and explain my name several times a day. But I'm the only Isar Meitis on LinkedIn. So there's a benefit to this whole thing. So if you found Isar Meitis on LinkedIn, that's me. That's probably one good way to connect with me. The other one is to go to my website. It's Multiplai, but spelled with AI in the end. So Multiplai. So multiplai.ai. And there you will find my courses and my training and the way to connect with me and the podcast. So, that's actually an important thing. So if you want to learn a lot about AI on a weekly basis, A, what's going on, and B, actual down-to-earth how to do stuff with AI, actual use cases that people are using. I once a week host the best practitioners of AI in the world that I can find that share what's behind the curtain, how the magician is doing the magic, literally the tools, the prompts, the processes, everything that they're using. We do that once a week. We do it live every Thursday if you want to join live and ask questions, and then it comes out as a podcast afterwards. And every weekend we share AI news. So there's 2 episodes every single week with a lot of practical AI knowledge. So these are probably the best ways to connect with me and follow.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you, Isar. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.